The White House is panicking and desperately trying to stop Donald Trump's tax returns from being sent to the House of Representatives. One of the first members of Congress that I met when I started doing the David Pakman show is Richard Neal from Massachusetts. And he was actually my congressman where the show was originally located out in Western Massachusetts and where the first studio was and where I lived. He was our congressman, so to speak, until the districts were redrawn. But he's always been a friend of the show. And he's not one of these celebrity congressmen. He's not the most progressive on every issue, but he does do the right thing often. And last week, he formally requested Donald Trump's tax returns from the last 6 years, as well as Donald Trump's business tax returns from the Internal Revenue Service, from the Treasury. And this is how it works. There's a law from 1924 which gives House and Senate committees that deal with tax writing the right to request specific tax returns from the IRS. In this case, Congressman Richard Neal is on the House Ways and Means Committee. Richard Neal has given a deadline of April 10th for these to be provided to the House of Representatives Ways and Means Committee. It's really not easy to block these requests unless you have really good reasons. So this is why elections matter, right? Now that Democrats control the House and control House committees, this is one of the things that they can do. Donald Trump has claimed that the reason he hasn't released his tax returns is because he's under audit. Now, it's been years now. Being under audit doesn't preclude or prevent you in any way from releasing your tax returns. Even a Fox News contributor, even other people associated directly with Donald Trump, like his chief of staff, have said, being under audit, whether it's true or not, it's not really a good reason not to release your tax returns. But regardless, Donald Trump hasn't done it. And more importantly, it's been disputed whether Donald Trump's tax returns are even under audit. You might remember that Michael Cohen, at his testimony under oath, said that it's just something Trump says. It's not true. And certainly there's never been any evidence provided that indicates Donald Trump actually is under audit. So now the Trump White House is in this predicament where they are running out of legal options to prevent the release of Donald Trump's tax returns to the House of Representatives Ways and Means Committee. Richard Neal has used a completely very cool, very legal, to quote Donald Trump, method to request those tax returns. And the Trump administration is planning to go to Trump's Attorney General William Barr to prevent to use the Justice Department to prevent the release of Trump's taxes to the House Ways and Means Committee. Will this work? I don't know. It's going to be tough. They're clearly very desperate. And if you go back and actually look at the 1924 law, it says nothing about the White House gets to decide whether they're okay with the release of the president's taxes to the House Ways and Means Committee. There's nothing about the president's handpicked attorney general gets to get involved. It's very cut and dry. They have the right to request tax returns from the Treasury Department. So there's a couple different issues here that I want to talk about. First of all, why do we want to see Trump's tax returns? Maybe people have sort of forgotten about that issue since for so long it was a foregone conclusion that we weren't going to get to see them. Well, number one, we want to see if the president is a liar on this issue. We know he's a liar. We want to see if he's a liar on this particular issue. We want to see if he's a criminal. And we believe in transparency, which Donald Trump claims to believe in. I've said all along, though, I am very skeptical of the idea that Donald Trump's taxes are going to expose criminality of any kind. The most likely scenario, I believe, Pat, is that Trump's taxes would expose he's not nearly as rich as he says he is, and potentially that he pays very, very little in terms of a federal tax rate. I don't know if you disagree, but I don't think criminality is going to be exposed by looking at Donald Trump's taxes.
I don't think that Trump is overly concerned with it being exposed that he's not paying so much in federal taxes like he should be paying more, because Republican voters aren't going to care about that. Trump himself says that, it's my job to pay as little in taxes as I possibly can. That's my obligation to myself, to my business, to my family. I think he is worried, though, that the public's going to find out that he's not as rich as he claimed to be, and that would kind of debunk him being the savior that America needed during 2016. He was the successful business guy who was going to bring the country so much success that he was able to achieve.
Yeah, I actually think that Trump is enough of an egomaniac that he would work this hard to keep his taxes secret merely so it doesn't get revealed that he's not nearly as rich as he claims to be. Now, once again, what's the pattern here? Trump is totally innocent, but the Mueller report needs to be kept secret. And in fact, during the investigation is illegal, bad, a witch hunt, and needs to be stopped. Trump's taxes are absolutely great, but they absolutely have to be kept secret. Trump was a genius, brilliant student, but he threatened schools with lawsuits through his then personal attorney, Michael Cohen, if his transcripts or grades get out. If you think that this is normal and okay, you're a part of the problem, and you're part of the Trump cult of personality that I spoke about last week. And you know what? I would actually respect some of these right wingers more if they said, rather than pretending that there's nothing here that we should be looking at in Donald Trump's taxes, rather than pretending that this is not yet another one of Donald Trump's promises made that he hasn't kept, I would respect right wingers and Trumpists more if they said, listen, I like Trump's immigration policy, I like Trump's tax policy, and I like Trump's foreign policy, but he simply must release his tax returns because he promised to do it and because we need to be sure that there's nothing disturbing in there. I'm going to be doing the exact same thing on Friday. I'm taking an audience question about Bernie Sanders' tax returns, okay? I like Bernie. I agree with many of his policies. He's in the top three in terms of who I am potentially going to be supporting in the 2020 Democratic primary, but he said he'd release his taxes. And he's got to release his taxes. And every day that he doesn't, tongue-tied here, it is a growing problem for Bernie Sanders. And I can take a nonpartisan perspective on that. Bernie said he'd release them. Trump said he'd release them. Neither has. They both need to. So just come forward. I welcome Trumpists. Call in during live calls or write me an email. Tell me that you were able to put partisanship aside and say, Trump's got to release his taxes and he's got to do it right away.